Happy Friday, gamers! It's John Arnhem, the Indie Detective, and I'm very excited to be here on episode 1 of the Indie Detective Reviews. Today we've got 3 great new game titles, and then at the end, we're going to show you exactly what you can expect from me here on the Indie Detective channel. We move pretty fast here on the Indie Detective, so try to keep up. We do 3 things for each game. First thing, an overview about what makes this game unique and original. Second thing, the gameplay basics. And third, viability and value. Whether these early access titles are going to go the distance and whether it's worth your time and money. So without further ado, this week's titles are freshman release from Canadian game studio Scary Wizard Games, Monumental Failure. From solo developer Jelly Liam, Mono, Episode 1, I Want to Get Out. And last but not least, Northgard by Shiro Games, makers of Evil Land. Monumental Failure is the first release from Scary Wizard Games, 2 Canadians and their dog doing what they like to do best, making creative indie titles. The Steam page satirically describes the game as a construction simulator, but in reality it's a historically unpredictable physics-based puzzle game. Using construction techniques from ramps to rockets, you'll put together 7 of the world's wonders in crazy unpredictable ways that will see you failing time and time again and loving it. Now the game does have multiplayer, both co-op and split-screen competitive modes, but only locally, so if you have multiple keyboards or a Steam controller, you can plug those in and play with your friends, but it does not support over Steam multiplayer functions. However, it does have Steam-enabled leaderboards, so you can see how your monument construction skills rank up against your friends. The animation and art is simple, yet competent, and it all complements the crazy, unpredictable results that comes from the different ways that you can construct these world wonders. Moving on to the gameplay. What this game is not is a laid-back construction sim, historically accurate, or particularly easy. You'll find that the physics engine is often wildly unpredictable, and many of your construction techniques involve trampolines, rockets, or bungee cords, things that make pieces fly everywhere in often hilarious ways. It kind of reminds me of the old Bethesda conundrum. Is this a feature or a bug? When it comes down to it, having played as many of the different maps as I have, I gotta say, it's definitely a feature. It makes the puzzles great to fail and even better to succeed at. Every single one of the wonders features a variety of different puzzle types, which I think is a great design. Each wonder has variations on a theme, and a simple tutorial puzzle is often followed by other variations of that puzzle of increasing difficulty. Adding to these thematic elements is an original score which constantly loops in the background and kind of accompanies the general feel of every single map. The developers have told me that this soundtrack is currently free to stream online, so I'll put the link to that in the description down below. So what all that boils down to is what this game is a goofy, replayable, wonderfully enjoyable puzzle game that's definitely worth the money that I sank into it. And it rewards you with hats, the best part of the Team Fortress franchise, am I right? Right, gamers? Right? Hats! So now to talk a little bit about the viability and value of this game. The game launched on January 14th of 2017, so it's been out for about 3 months as of the date of this review. While technically not an early access title in that it's not participating in Steam's early access program, you can check out the patch notes. The developers have added extra features consistently since launch, including an entire new monument, the Great Wall of China, and extra hats. This recent Great Wall of China update in particular, I think, lends credence and viability to the game because it features a new 8-character control mode, and that kind of mechanic isn't something that a developer often abandons after only one update and patch. Additionally, I like the look and feel of the team. While it's just a studio of 2 people from Toronto and their dog, and it's their first project, they have a professional website and they've been very responsive to all of my inquiries about their game. All that being said, this is basically a finished product save for some bug testing, so any extra content they throw at us, like that Great Wall update or extra hats, it's all bonus material. So is it worth it? The game is currently on sale on the Steam store for $9.99 or 9.99 euros. So it's only sold about 1,000 copies. You may see it on a Steam sale eventually, but I think it's worth the full $10. And if they continue to throw extra updates and content at us, it just increases that volume even more. So I say this is a great game, definitely worth your money, definitely worth your time. Moving forward, what I would say to the devs, I would love to have multiplayer ability. I actually already bought this game, a copy of it, for a friend of mine. He lives way on the other coast, so I'm glad that he's going to get to play it with his friends locally, but I'd love to be able to hook up with my buddies online. It would probably help sell some extra copies too. So what's the verdict on Monumental Failure? Thumbs up on value, thumbs up on viability. I think it's worth both your time and your money. The second game in today's review lineup is what would appear to be a very simple episodic horror game. It's called Mono by single-person developer Jelly Liam. As of today, Mono only features one of the 3 promised short stories. The first one's called I Want to Get Out and features a metagame narrative of a player playing against the computer. Jelly Liam has an interesting sales strategy in that the first episode, I Want to Get Out, only sells for $4 on Steam, and if you buy that, you get the other 2 episodes for free, but every time another episode releases, it will increase the price of the package by $1, up to a total of $6 at the end. Now this game is really not much to look at on the face, but you've got to go deeper. It is pretty clever. I like the metagame premise, so let's get into some of the gameplay. Now I'm going to head this off by saying I did like what I played of this game. It's a little buggy at the start. You have to click to enable your mouse controls and be able to move around, so it's not super intuitive. I did a little bit of button mashing, but I did eventually get into it, and this transition was pretty smooth after that. Also, there's a sprint mechanic that helps you move around faster, but there's no stamina bar, which seems a little arbitrary, so it makes it seem like we would probably be better off if we just moved around faster without even having the sprint mechanic. There's also no escape menu or any way to get out of the game once you're into it, at least none that was intuitive that I could see, so the only way to change your settings or anything is to Alt F4 out of the game, reload, and do it from the main menu. But that is the sum and total of everything I didn't like about the game, just a little bit of the wonky controls. What I do like about it is that it has this interesting metagame narrative. You play as a character playing a game. So yeah, see if you can follow along with this. The antagonist is a character inside the game that your character gamer is playing. It was definitely a little too clever of a premise for me because it starts out by saying this game is super buggy and crashes all the time. It's not trying to say that Mono is bad. It's trying to say that the game inside the game is bad, and it incorporates those crashes and blue screens as a mechanic in the game. Did you get all that? Yeah, it went over my head the first time I played this too. It eventually all kind of makes sense once you realize that the premise is that there's a file in the computer trying to get out. So it's one of the more clever stories that I've seen in a game, and it is a short story. You can finish this in probably just a couple hours if you just bust your way through it, but because of all the trial and error, it keeps you coming back, and it's going to take a little bit more time for you to understand exactly how to navigate through all these crashes and blue screens and do all that kind of stuff inside the game. Some of the other mechanics in the game are a little clever. The guidance mechanics focus on light and sound, so different hallways will light up when you need to go there. There will be clanks and bangs that direct you to different parts of your small little house that you're in. There's also a camera, but just a simple flash camera, so it kind of reminds me of Outlast, where you have the night vision. Now, the part of the gameplay that I appreciated most was the actual horror mechanics, the tension. And there's no grand score playing in the background that makes things more tense at any given point, but what there is the constant presence of the antagonist character. At one point he'll be looming off in the distance as a little white specter, but you know that every now and then he's going to jump out and get you, and when he does that, he's a little black demon character that really is great at jump scares. Eventually I became a little desensitized to the jump scares because he does get you at the same point every single sequence, but I found that was adding to the tension. It was getting my hair to stand on end because I knew that if I messed up and I didn't hit the right key at exactly the right time, he was going to pounce on me again and send me back to the beginning of the sequence. Now that may sound like it gets a little repetitive, and it does, but it goes back to that no hand-holding 1990s adventure kind of game where you have to learn from your own mistakes, and if you keep making them, it's going to keep punishing you. So what all that boils down to is that beneath the layer of simplicity, especially graphical simplicity because everything kind of looks like it's white enamel, there's this layer of story writing complexity that really can challenge even the most seasoned gamers. So moving on to the last segment, talking here about Mono, viability and value. One thing I know is that the graphical simplicity of the game will turn off some consumers. Hopefully I've helped alleviate that a little bit by talking about the gameplay, but I know that people expect a lot from their games these days. And also the promise of future episodes sometimes worries me because I think a game might be a cash grab, but I don't see that being the case here. Developer Jelly Liam already has released teasers for episode 2, so I know at least I'm getting that extra dollar of value out of my $4 purchase. On the same note, the pricing scheme is right for the content. $4 for this game That's perfect. I spent a couple hours playing it and I really enjoyed my time. It's better than going to the movies. And the whole idea of adding $1 to the price tag every time it releases an episode, I think that expresses the game dev's confidence in the finished product. Talking about developers in general, there are upsides and downsides to having a single-man studio. Having only one person means that there is less accountability, but it also means they have more freedom of creativity. The narrative is not super polished, so I'm not sure it would have survived the way it is if there were multiple people giving their input on it, but it is original and compelling, and I like that whole metagame concept, so I'm glad that it came out in its current form. So what's my consensus on Mono Episode 1 I Want to Get Out? I'll definitely give it a thumbs up on value. $4 for this game, that's pretty reasonable. But I am torn on the viability of the game going forward. There is some bug fixing that needs to be done in Episode 1 still, and while I am pretty confident that Episode 2 will come out, you never quite know whether it's going to make it all the way to Episode 3. But all that being said, Jelly Liam, I'm glad I played your game, and congratulations on your release. The last game on our list of reviews for today is Northgard by Shiro Games. Unlike the other two games we've reviewed, Northgard has already been getting a ton of reviews and attention from people around the internet. Personally, I have to thank content creator Mr. Feudal for turning me onto this game. His Let's Plays of feudal-style games have always been interesting to me, but this one really grabbed my attention. If I had to sum up Northgard in a few words, I would call this a Viking mythology real-time strategy game with resource management mechanics. Unlike games like Warcraft, you have to produce enough resources for everyone, including your troops. Everyone eats, everyone needs firewood to stay warm, and you have to seize resources based on a randomly generated map. According to the lore of the game, the map is the mysterious Isle of Northgard that your clan has just landed on, and it contains things like Draugr, corrupted Valkyries, and maybe even the Tree of the World Yggdrasil. In its current early access form, you can only play against up to 3 NPC clans on a map, but they are working very hard on getting the multiplayer functionality out right now, and I have a lot of friends that already own this game, so I can't wait to see what they can do against me. Now, like I just said, this is still an early access, but 100,000 people have already bought it according to Steam Spy, and TechRaptor said, it's already a worthwhile title and could easily become a must-play for real-time strategy fans. So let's pivot to talk about the gameplay real fast. Like every real-time strategy game, the player has to focus on conquest, especially taking the resources he needs. But this game also really focuses on resource stability. Like I mentioned up top, you have to make enough resources so that everyone can eat, everyone has enough firewood to stay warm, and everyone has enough crowns to get paid. There's also a seasonal timer that continually ticks, and during the winter, your production is cut, so you either have to stockpile extra resources or double down on production. On top of that, there's also randomly spawning disasters that can take up your resources. Rats can come and eat your food, earthquakes can require loads of lumber to repair your buildings, and you can even have portals from Helheim open up, spilling Draugr onto your unsuspecting populace. On top of gold, food, and wood, there are also 2 other resources that you need to manage, lore and fame. Now, lore is your technology resource, which you get from studying the mysterious runestones that dot the island. But fame, on the other hand, is a constantly stacking resource that can get you some really great clan-specific bonuses, but you only get it by conquering new territory, defeating baddies, and performing heroic works. And speaking of clans, this is one of my favorite parts of the game. There are 4 now, one just released in a patch, but each clan has its own specific tech tree and strengths that it starts out with. And as you gain fame, they also have their own specific fame bonuses. Now, I'm not entirely sure about the balance between them. As far as I've seen, the Clan of the Wolf pretty much wrecks every single time you play. But I also played as the Goat Clan once, and they get food bonuses, and that allowed me to build up my military way faster than anyone else, and I pretty much wrecked on that map too. There are several clear-cut paths to victory, but right now it seems that the tech victory is a little overpowered. It's really easy to get a tech victory if you just have a couple of runestones that you're researching at, but the rest of the victory conditions seem really balanced, and you can also disable certain victory conditions if you don't want to play with one of them. For fans of real-time strategy genres, this game is very easy to get into. The controls are intuitive, it's very easy to see the different panels, and the UI is just pretty fantastic. So my only complaints right now are balance issues. Like I mentioned about the tech victory, also the difficulty level between the various clan bots is not that different between the easy and the hard mode. They did say in a recent patch note that they lowered the difficulty of the hard mode because they're going to release a very hard mode, so we'll see if that balance changes in a little bit. On viability and value, let me just say up front, thumbs up on both of them. Of the 3 games I've reviewed today, this is the most expensive one. It costs 20 bucks or 20 euros, but like TechRaptor said, it's pretty much already a finished product. It's fantastic. Definitely worth 20 bucks. The one issue I think most people have with early access titles is there's a danger a studio might just say, we got our money, goal achieved, and then just walk. but this is not a new developer. They have a track record of having proven releases of good games. So just a note on the developer, Shiro Games was started by two guys in France, but then they released Evoland. They did a little prototype game in between, but then they released Evoland 2, and both of the Evoland games were pretty great. So I'm not really worried about them just walking away. They're not really engaged with the community outside of Steam, but their dev notes on the Steam page have been pretty good. They're really comprehensive, and they go over everything they've changed, and they make a lot of changes between patches. So yeah, on Northgard, thumbs up on viability. They're a proven studio, and they're making a lot of good changes to their game already, and thumbs up on value. I think you're really going to enjoy this title. There's definitely a lot of hours of gameplay there. Well, that is it for today. Thank you so much for stopping by for episode 1 of the Indie Detective Gamers. I really appreciate your time. I hope that you learned a little bit about new and upcoming indie titles, whether they're worth your time and money. Come back next week for 3 more indie titles. We might be doing a little bit of the Steam Greenlight roulette. If you want to learn more about more indie game titles, or you want to see some gameplay footage from these videos, hit the subscribe button. You'll see gameplay all throughout the week next week, and a new review video next Friday. Hit the like button if you want to help this channel out, and maybe even share this video if you've got some gamer friends that you think might be interested in these titles. Also, the Indie Detective needs your help. I don't know what games you want to hear about, so go ahead and tell me in the comments what games I can review for you. Maybe something that you're interested in but a little skeptical, or an early access title that you think might be a scam. Let me do the investigation for you. Just tell me in the comments and I'll check it out. So long for now, gamers. This has been John Arnhem, the Indie Detective. I will see you next Friday here on the Indie Detective channel.